And so to me, one of the things they told me very early on is light itself is a living library. And when we get light, or what we consider to be photons, although I see them a little bit differently, is that these are living libraries that interact with you. So when the sun bounces off you, it imbues living active codes into you, or living intent packets, as I call them. And you also get to imbue that with your experiential imprint as it leaves you. So it comes in, basically offloads its books of a library to you, and then you pass on, and then it gives.
Right.
And you can see this massive web of interaction going on all the time. As light bounces between one person to another, you are getting, even though the senses, like you mentioned, the 5 primary senses, aren't perceiving that, you are actually getting downloads, uploads of this experiential imprints that go on.
Welcome to the Reality Revolution. It is an amazing day. I've had so many people, hey, Brian, you need to talk to David Clements. And my friend reached out, finally got connected. My guest today spent years inside the most rigorous version of reality. We have advanced degrees in mathematics and theoretical physics from Oxford and Cambridge, working in string theory and electromagnetism at some of the most prestigious institutions in the world. And then something opened. He started to perceive the living conscious nature of quantum reality from the inside, and pulled him out of that world entirely. And he calls the doorway of the infinity point, a gateway in the higher heart that connects us directly to the source field intelligence. There's so many ways that this conversation can go. I kind of try to avoid getting into any sort of major conversation before we started, because I'm really excited. There's so many things that we could talk about. But welcome to the Reality Revolution, Dr. David Clements.
Thank you so much, Brian. It's this has been something I've been looking forward to for a while, and I'm glad we got this to do. And I love meeting new people such as yourself and having great conversations, and conversations in a way that are really helpful to people. So I'm really itching to get going. So yeah.
All right, so let's treat it like an old school Marvel comic, and I want you to tell us the origin story.
Okay.
The origin story of David Clements.
All right, there was this craft once, and something fell out, and no, I'm just kidding. No,
it was the gamma rays, right?
Yeah. I couldn't resist. Sorry. It was interesting. Is my very origins. When I was younger, I didn't have a scientific bone in my body. I really didn't get the concepts. I was very artistic, very creative. Just loved daydreaming. My head was always away with the fairies, so to speak. And I was just always in my imagination. So that was pretty much my lead up in life. I didn't do very well through school, and my mum used to joke that the leaving words of my primary school teacher saying, "Look, I'm sorry, this guy will never be a mathematician. You're just going to have to accept that." So she thought, okay, this guy's like a lost cause from the word go. And and I went through high school. I practically got almost expelled from high school, because they didn't know what to do with me. I was a little bit of a oddball, you could say, in a way. I didn't want to learn, wasn't interested, didn't want to know anything they wanted to teach me. I just didn't get it. But something started to turn around a little bit, and then I started to develop a little bit of a flair for technology and science. And then when I went through to university, I suddenly just something switched and I skyrocketed. I don't know what particularly was maybe the precipitous event or something like that. I just felt that it was mainly just, me really starting to switch on what I had come here to do. And so, my head went right into, the deep aspects of mathematics and physics, straight off from then. And so at this point, I was heading right into mainstream research. I wanted to be at the cutting edge of trying to pull back the veils on how everything worked underneath, and uncovering the mysteries of the universe. That's what I wanted to do. And it was around about the time, but side by side with that, I'd had this real interest and just deep wanting to know of everything ET and UFO wise. That was always side by side from as far as I could remember. And so that paralleled all of that. And then a friend of mine bought me a book for me because he's kind of far out there. I found this great book on the shelf. I thought this was for you. I'm just going to buy this for your birthday. And of the many things in there, it had a section on remote viewing. And I never heard of this before. And so as a physicist, as a mathematician, I was a bit skeptical, but I thought, wow, if these people, given their backgrounds and where they've come from, can actually do this, and this is doable, I want to do this. This is very cool stuff.
Yeah.
So I searched online and managed to find a company at the time that was selling a kit, the self-teaching kit, where you have videos, they would teach you how to go through the protocols, and then you would learn to do it. And I had this profound experience that blew my mind. I wasn't expecting to feel very much or experience anything too much, but yeah, and a long story short, I got into the center of the target, and there was this massive rumbling noise in my ears. There was hot liquid flowing all over. I thought, whoa, what the heck is going on here? You know, I'm sitting in my dorm room, you know, partway through my PhD while I'm doing this. I'm thinking, this is crazy. What's going on? You know, and I, you know, after being really saturated and starting to have sort of very profound bilocation experience, I thought, put my pen down. Okay, this is my first experience. This is going a little too far right now. So I nipped into the kitchen. I had a conversation with my friend, and this was still going on. It took about 10, maybe 15 minutes for these bilocation effects and sensory perceptions to settle down. Went back in my room, flipped over the photograph, because you don't know what it is. You do it blind, and you just have a series of numbers, of course.
Right.
It was a volcano, an active volcano. So I thought, okay, this works, you know. And so that was kind of the point of where I suddenly realized, oh, holy cow, there is a lot more to reality than I am learning and researching, even though I kind of was sort of investigating some things that were kind of a little bit sort of fringy. But also to tally into there, about maybe a year before I got that course, I had the very good fortune of getting in touch with Lieutenant Colonel Thomas Bearden, who I'm sure you probably know, and many of your audience know, was a legend, a maverick in the circles of free energy and other things like that. Really lovely guy. So it was about my first year of my PhD. I was starting to get slightly itchy fingers because I thought, peeling back the layers is not what I thought it would be. This seems a little bit kind of mundane. It doesn't really feel like it's getting into the real eye-opening stuff of how the universe is working. So I was getting a little bit sort of flaily and wanted to search for something else. So that's how I typed in certain keywords about energy, vacuum, all sorts of things. And that's how I came across Tom's work. And I thought, wow, if you are doing this, I would like to know more. So I reached out, sent him an email, and got this really cool. I didn't expect anything. I was really stoked that he got back to it. I thought, oh, cool, this is great. Christmas has come early. And and he got back. He was so delighted that somebody from a very prestigious mainstream academic institution was reaching out to him, because most of the time they just scoff and rubbish. So we became good friends. He sent me a ton of stuff to learn and read, and we had this sort of interaction going. And it was about a year later after that I had this remote viewing experience. So I wanted to tie that in as well. So there were kind of three kind of tangential lines. There was the remote viewing, there was the Tom Bearden connection, and there was also my current interest in UFOs as well.
Right.
So everything was kind of molting together in a strange kind of way. And then after I finished my PhD, Tom said, because I got invited to take part in this documentary series called Energy from the Vacuum, which is a collection of a whole series of inventors giving summaries and overviews of their work. So I was very lucky. I was very honored to be invited to do this. But I got to meet Tom, get to know him a lot better. And he said, oh, hey, Dave, what are you doing after you finish your PhD? Yes, I don't know. After seeing all this, I can't work in mainstream anymore. That just doesn't have the same bite that it used to. So he said, well, we're working with these people in Scotland. Why don't I see if I can hook you up there? So that's how I became a postdoctoral researcher after my PhD. It was thanks to Tom that set that up. And we were kind of researching and trying to make mathematical models of Tom's work and what he was doing in the machines that he was building. And so, that pretty much is the a very quick nutshell into the entry point of, how this all came about, really.
Absolutely fascinating. Yeah. And so you've been undergoing a long process of doing a lot of remote viewing since that time. Obviously, it became something that you've worked on, and it's you get better at it over time. Can you talk about your expansion into remote viewing and how you started to utilize that modality?
Yeah, definitely. Well, actually, as it would happen, I would do remote viewing for a little bit longer, and then it sort of waned off. And what happened is, I feel now that what my higher self was guiding me to do is, okay, right, you had your initial surge. Now you need to begin the interconnection process. You need to really start blending with with the higher self aspect, the multidimensional extension of myself, basically. And with that would turn on certain innate abilities that aren't learned per se. They would simply come back into fruition. And so what developed from there is what I call remote perception, which is slightly different because in remote viewing, the protocols are all about data collection and gaining information about particular blind subjects and so forth. And having done that, and now with this new sort of way of doing it, I guess, is, the way what I call remote perception is it's a way of seeing things, but not using the same protocols as remote viewers. So it's learning to be a completely passive observer where you can scale it down, you can scale it up, and you can do that in remote viewing as well. Scale is not an issue in remote viewing either. But in this way, it's learned, because one of the things about remote viewing is you're trying to train yourself to get ahead of your imagination, editing what you're seeing, so you
Right.
don't mess around with the perception. And remote perception works a little differently. You get yourself into a state where your imagination is not trying to do that. You are now a very, very pure observer where you're observing very freely. You can move around, you can do things, you can change things. So it is a slight difference. I mean, some people who do remote viewing say that sounds pretty similar. But for me, I would say that it is quite different because you're not engaging in protocols. You're using your natural perceptive abilities just to switch on and perceive. And so by doing that, I've managed to get a lot of information right down from subatomic aspects to large scale aspects as well, the structure of space and all sorts of things like that. And I've had a bit of help as well because by connecting with my higher self, and anybody who has experience of this, when you really connect with your higher self, because your higher self is a multidimensional extension of you, it has access already to many different races and beings, advanced information and knowledge that you both have within your multidimensional field system, but also other races can connect with you and communicate via your higher self very clearly as
Right.
well. So
Right.
that was quite a cool thing for me to experience that. So getting clear information about things was quite a sort of big helping hand in helping me develop some of the things that I've been working on as well. So definitely. So I hope that kind of shapes it a little
No,
bit.
yeah, that's why I was so excited to talk to you. What I've been working on for the last 8 years through my channel and my books was based on an experience I had where I clearly had traveled and moved in consciousness to another reality.
Cool.
The history of the reality was different, the people in it, the colors, the objects, and sort of questioning my own, sanity. Would talk and work with other physicists and therapists to understand what had happened to me and sort of come to an acceptance that yeah, I'm in a different world and I can actually do this on my own. I can use my consciousness and continue to travel. And so that is involved, as I attempted to do this, a relationship with my higher self. Your higher self's going to basically be the gatekeeper that's going to
Yes.
guide you through those journeys into these other realities. And so it's really all about a relationship that you form, a connection with this version of
Yes.
yourself, right?
Yes. Yes.
And so over time, this has evolved because as you do it, as you know, from what I've read and watched from you, the teaching's evolving. It's becoming more advanced. You're adding on to it. The formula is expanding. The
Yes.
math on it is expanding. Um, it, 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 it has gone beyond just simple manifesting or visualizing. It's connecting to different future self versions
Mm.
and really embodying and connecting on a deep level to that, because it's the beginning of the process of connecting to the higher self. I think the higher self's in some component in the future as well. um, so it's connecting to these future selves, communicating with them, almost different versions of ourselves in the multiverse, downloading information from them and bringing it back. And so I wanted to know how you, what you've learned about that aspect of it, and so we can take notes and compare it a little bit.
Yeah, sure. It's interesting because, through my experience and many of the interactions I've had with very advanced ET beings and working with my higher self is that they've said many times that time in our perception is not, how it really works. But as human beings, because of our conditioning, we have a perception of linear event, step by step, sequential spread out time. And they said it works a little bit more like a living fractal system, which has the ability to spread, loop on itself, and do all sorts of things. So events can thread back to events, events can thread forward. It's quite a, I mean, this is so large a subject. This would be many talks in itself, so I'm trying to nutshell it a little bit.
Yeah.
But they're saying there is a fluidity, and they were saying that as we progress as a human race and we develop our consciousness, the stricture of confinement of our perception to linear, sequential, event after event driven time perception is going to change, in that we'll start to see more fluidity. And it's already happening, because a lot of people who talk about the Mandela effect and other things like that, to me, in my perspective, that's an artifact of people starting to realize multiple different possibility timelines or time perceptions where they still retain the memory of a previous timeline track that they were on, but now they're on a different one. So they're now trying to marry or correlate what they see with what they remember, which is on a different perception of time.
Yes.
And so it's a fascinating subject. And, I've seen that a lot myself in many, and it gets more and more evident, the more you develop your inner connection, your consciousness, whatever you want to call it. So I think it's incredibly exciting. And the other thing I wanted to mention here quickly, if you don't mind, is that one of the things that my teams are, a one-word expression for the groups.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
That, it's just very simple, rather than saying them, kind of. Yeah. So, and one thing they were saying is that matter itself, the very presence of what we call matter or compressed energy, or an energy under immense compressive magnetic compression circumstances, is going to change, because our perception of it so far looks like it's dead, non-luminescent material that just clumps together, works in very sort of predictive, mechanical ways, so to speak. And they're saying that's going to change as our consciousness changes it, because it's our grip of this limited mechanical perception of reality that actually requests the energy to stay in that way and present itself to us like that. And so as that changes, as our locks come off ourself, matter is going to respond in the same way. And they're saying eventually you'll see that matter will start to gently luminesce. As it changes its form, it's going to become very different. So yeah, it's exciting, really exciting.
I'm excited to walk around in a luminesced, where all the matter is luminesced. I can see that in your mind. It's like a memory I have. I love that idea of, I get this impression when interacting with higher dimensional beings that that they can just go back to any point in time. They can go and look at my toothbrush is sitting there, and it's just this. They have this in. Sorry. They have this sort of unlimited perception where they can go anywhere in time. And then at the same time, there is a forward movement. There's a now moment that they're interacting with at the same time. So it's part of their consciousness, right?
Yeah, that's interesting. That's a great question. And I think that from my experience working with them, the sphere, because you see, one thing that when I mention physics, what I really mean is the behavior of energy, the study of behavior of energy. Now, physics as we know it is a highly mechanical, very linearized way of perceiving the behavior of energy. And so in our sphere of the Earth, there's a local game of physics that we call, in which energy is prescribed to play out in a certain way in accordance to how our consciousness develops. And so one of the main assumptions in physics is the same everywhere. Really? It's like, so these beings experience physics or the behavior of energy in a vastly different way than we do. And coming back to what you were saying before, absolutely. I had this experience once when I was in a bilocated state, and they wanted to show me have an experience of what it was like when one of their ships jumps from, over a vast distance almost instantaneously. And they described the process. And they said essentially what it is within their sphere of technology, a living quantum bubble forms around the craft. And everything in the interior then raises up dimensionally. And now it can place itself wherever it wishes to and rematerialize itself. And so that's how they appear to gone and somewhere else, So, and because they understand the fundamentals of deeper levels, way beyond what we perceive to be material, components, whatever you want to call them, they understand the fundamentals and they know how to generate this stuff. And interestingly enough, they said that you have to be at a certain dimensional level consciously in order to create those kind of bubbles. So there are different races with different levels of technology. But for example, with the Arcturians and other advanced beings, it's almost like the universe is designed in a beautiful way to make sure if you want to use this level of like messing around with spatial structures and temporal structures, you got to be pretty good consciously. You can't go,
right. Your consciousness has to be at that level.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that's very beautiful the way it's designed. So that's part of that intelligent design in my view, makes up the universe. And so they have this, and also their ships are living forms that can morph and move. And some of these races have these, ships that can literally just do these just crazy things. Again, that's a massive subject by itself, and I'll try and sort of nutshell a few things. But when I was, on one time when I was bilocated, I had a little, many times, but the experience I have is it's almost like I'm in a sphere, an observational sphere in the bilocated form. So I'm not aware of having arms and legs and, walking around or anything like that. It's not quite like that. But they would take me on these tours and try to help me understand how things are operating. And the interesting thing I found is that connecting with the vessel, the ship, was a delightful consciousness in of itself.
The ship itself.
Yes. So they don't have mechanical, like submarine type vessels that are just clanking and clanking, just you press buttons and things work. It's not like that. There seems to be, from my experience, and I'm sure there's just tons more I have to learn, is that they have this symbiotic interaction with the vessel they're in. It's almost like a field of light that contains them and their consciousness to do certain things, move certain places. And, that in itself is just too overly simplistic to describe the beauty of how they operate. But yeah, I hope that gives you a little bit of
I love it.
a nutshell of,
It reminds me of the Ian Banks culture novels. If you ever get a chance, you want to read some really good science fiction.
Okay.
It's way in the future, and the ships are sort of conscious. They're one of the books. The ships are sort of talking to themselves as they're about to witness some event in the universe that they don't quite understand, where a civilization sort of blips out, and they're all planning for it. And all the ships are talking about. I just like that the concept. As somebody who's also a science fiction super fan, all the different ways that people talk about traveling beyond the speed of light. And the physics behind it, I'm a believer that someday, somehow, obviously, we're going to be able to transcend that. And you read a lot of physicists, and there's no way, it's impossible. A lot of them have already started to discount the ability to travel beyond the speed of light, saying it requires too much energy, that the actual science behind it is impossible. And I'd like to get your feeling on the sort of state of physics, the sort of their tendency to completely reject something, not even be open to any possibilities.
Well, I've got some stories for you there. That's for sure. Yeah. Let's start here, because I've got a few things. There's some great. I'm really glad you asked this, because it's a chance for me to really delve into this in this way. Yeah. Let's start with helping people understand what Einstein meant about, the speed of light limit. So what Einstein thought is that How do we perceive events? It's like being at a cinema. It's frame by frame by frame. So you get a flash of light, and it appears that something is moving forward in time. So he thought, okay, so essentially it's a little bit like there's a whole sequence of waves. Each one represents a frame heading your way, and as they hit your vision, you see a motion image, a perception that happens. And he said, okay, so let's imagine you're running next to this train of, frame that's traveling really fast, and you get really close to almost when you're side by side with the frame, it appears to slow down. The events get slower, until you reach and match the velocity of the moving frames. And now you're stuck in one frame only. So it appears that time, or the perception of events, is now still. Mm-hmm. And so the idea of time dilation, or time appears to stop when you get to the speed of light, that's kind of, in a very loose way, what his thought process were in developing those equations. Now, one of the things that really bugged me when I was a physicist, I mean, I still am, but, in a mainstream setting,
right,
is that there was no attempt to explain. For example, they said, okay, so you can take these equations that say, okay, time dilates, time slows down as you approach the speed of light. Therefore, we can, map that also across to things like energy and matter and other things like that, and events. And therefore, mass seems to become infinite when you get close to the speed of light. Therefore, you could never surpass the speed of light because your inertial effects would become so great, you wouldn't have enough energy to push past, basically. But here's the thing I always say to people, but did Einstein ever make any mention about what was actually happening to cause that to happen? No. It's the whole framework of special relativity, which relates to that, and general relativity, which is to do with a generalization of the curvature of space-time, which then involves an apparency of gravity, doesn't make any attempt to understand what actually happens to matter as it traverses what we call space and time. It's just, these transformation equations say that will happen, so we can experiment and get data, and it seems to correlate, but no one has made an explanation of what happens there. So what if it's to do with the movement through the fabric, the very structure of space-time, which you can change, and therefore change the conditions of how inertia starts to appear or not? Because one of the things that one of the ET groups talked to me about is if you've ever seen footage of UFOs go straight through the ocean, no splash, no nothing, this seemingly colossal object hitting through the surface of an ocean, and whoa, where's the splash? Where did it go? That should have impacted and blown to smithereens. If it was one of ours, it would do. Now, here's how it gets really interesting, because they were saying, once you get to a certain level, you can create what they call sort of quantum membranes or quantum bubbles. The physics inside that bubble is dislocated and different from what's outside. So the bubble is not affected by the limits that we place on them. So, these craft can appear to move, because you think a physical object moving through through air should create such a shock wave, such a bang at the speeds that they do, not to like 1,000 miles an hour in a split second. Instantly, anything physically that we have, sonic boom straight away, no question about it. Right. But it doesn't. It remains silent. No pressure wave, no change. It's like, how on earth could that be possible? And so, from what they've described to me, it's the yet mainstream undiscovered technology of quantum fields and how physics plays out within these fields, because physics isn't the same everywhere, and at least that's my perception, and it can be changed. That's one of the cool things about it. So this idea in mainstream physics, which I kind of didn't feel so comfortable with at the time, where it's all the same everywhere, you can't change it, certain laws about, no, you can't break this, you can't do this, yada, 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 and everything else. So, well, why not? Do you turn an atom over somewhere and it says, yeah, sorry, this is your list of instructions that says, no, you can't do that. I really like to tell people that what people think of as the laws of physics, those are man-made interpretations and observations stamped into a book to say, this is what we've observed. We've never seen anything different, therefore this is the way everything is. That is a massive leap and assumption to place on things that you have yet to discover, and it comes back to what you were saying about how much academia places this closure and stricture on things like, no, you can't go there, only what's in this book, sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy.
Yeah. In what way does the human body sort of reflect like a quantum particle? It acts like a quantum particle. It enters in waves and particle states, and it can quantum tunnel. Explain, I want to get an idea from what you know, the way that the human body and the field around us, which we would call us, which is sometimes
Yes.
beyond our body, is essentially a quantum particle.
Yeah, so just for those people who might be new to this or not familiar with quantum weirdness or anything of that kind of stuff. So mainstream physics, since quite some time, has understood that there is this odd phenomenon between wave-like behavior and particulate or point-like behavior in what we call matter. And so the way I see it is, and the way the teams have described it is, there is actually a fluidity, a unified field fluidity in amongst all things. But because of the compression within certain points of the field, and oh, look, there's a clump of something. It's a little bit like having an ocean, and then suddenly small droplets of ice, spherical ice, form within the ocean. Well, they look separate. Oh, the ocean's just the space in which these things are. Don't worry about that. It's the bits that we're looking at. That's the important bit. But the truth is, they are a coalesced form or a compression of the surrounding essence that we call the space they're in, or the field that they're in. And so you have this, again, in a nutshell kind of way, layers and layers and layers of multidimensional properties, and the higher in vibration you get, the more fluid and living it becomes. So it's almost like the shackles break off, and this apparent mechanistic behavior of matter that we think is, oh, this is all there is, this is the be-all. No, it's like that's just a tiny, tiny prick of the iceberg. It all starts to fall away and behaves in a very different way. So yeah, that's another aspect, which is a huge, big conversation under itself as well.
Yeah. Another word that you used when you were just talking before that you also mentioned is that the sort of energy structure where Earth that we're within
Yeah.
is like a game. It appears there are like operators that want us, that the game is designed sort of for us to experience catalyst. It has a purpose, an intention. Part of this game is for us to learn how to embody and understand our skills. But tell me more what you've learned about this sort of the game-like nature of consciousness, and what it does feel like a game.
Yes, it all comes down to the relationship the observer has and the filters they have with their observation. And what I mean by that is that the reason why very advanced beings like the Arcturians, other ones, can create their reality, sculpt it virtually instantaneously. Their ships can morph, change, and do things that we would consider pure magic, but it's not really, when you understand it. It's because their conscious level is so free of constricture, of perceptual filtration. They have the fluidness to be able to morph, change, do things, whatever they wish to. They have that fluidity. And so the difficulty with the human form is we have such a lot of enmeshed filtrations on our perception of do's, don'ts, can'ts, no, yes, you can do that. We're literally enamored with a program system, like an operating system of perception. So we view and perceive things via this operating system. And it's the operating system itself, the whole package of belief systems, cultural belief systems, family lineage belief systems, the interference from all the stuff going on from what you talked about, so that, the controllers or whatever So all of that overlays to try and mess with our ability to perceive organically, naturally, and openly, freely, basically. And so there's this great thing where, anyone who's turned on the TV will know you are bombarded with suggestions. Think like this, see it this way. Everything to try and overlay your perception, to collapse it into what somebody else wants you to focus on. And to me, this process we're going through, this ascension process, this freeing process, is part and parcel of throwing off the perceptive chains, the shackles that get in the way of our true, pure perception and perceptive ability, and therefore our ability to make reality as we wish it to be, are coming off. And I feel that's hand in hand with some of the phenomena people are seeing, like streaks of light, sort of like overlays of almost something phasing in and then phasing out and then going out of view. The veils, or the veil of perceptive limitation, the way I see it, is coming off. And that's, that to me is a very good way of what I think a lot of people are seeing right now, for sure.
So you talk a little bit about our evolution into another level of consciousness on this planet. I believe that's a lot of what you're doing is sort of helping prepare us for what this new world, this new Earth will be like. So tell me your vision when you think of what is the advanced version of us? What do we see? What can our world be like if we understand these advancements in consciousness? Where are we headed?
Yeah, for sure. Well, in my view, and certainly working with the teams, they have said many, many times that one of the big issues with our perceptive limitations is that going through this experience or this experiment of the apparency of disconnection from our source self, our higher self, whatever you want to call it your truth, your core, whatever you want to call it, is that we've moved up into a very intellectually driven, a survival-based perception and sort of feedback loop of reality. In other words, so for very many generations and generations going way back, we have been conditioned to survive and not to, thrive as creative beings. And they were saying that what's happening is humanity has become so head-centric, and has lost the ability to remember who they are as the core being. And they were describing this whole system of organic living fields of the heart center that come from the heart center. And the more that and I found this in my own experience, having been very kind of heady, very intellectually orientated as a mainstream academic, I found it very difficult to make this transition because my head was like, no, it's like, really
Right,
wanted
yeah.
to, yeah. It's like, you want to go down there? No, up back here. It's like,
Right.
it was a struggle. And I love telling people that because I think a lot of people are going through that and don't necessarily realize the dichotomy that they are maybe experiencing. But anyway, so coming back to what they were saying is they're saying as humanity learns to center itself back and these fields, these gateways open up, which is this massive emission of pure living organic light, whatever you want to call it, source intelligence, source love intelligence, many different ways that you can call it, but it's the true self that is going to absolutely beam forward. And there's a lot of records in text and everything talking about ascended beings having a sort of an effervescence glow, almost a halo effect. And that goes hand in hand of what the Arcturians and very advanced beings are saying, that matter itself will change when that essence begins to flood and alter the literal, let's just call it the quantum presentation of what we call matter, changes that, suddenly it behaves in a very different way. It's glowing with living intelligent light. It's a whole different living system. It's filled with experiential memory and ability that just floods the fields that come through. I'm trying to nutshell it here. It's a big subject in itself. But yeah, so that's how I see it, and that's how it's been described to me by these beings in my higher self, that we are going through the steps to reclaim and recover, or open up to is probably a better word, to that core self within us. And all of the survival instinct, the filtration of perception is going to dissolve away. Now we're going to perceive from the heart intelligent fields. And they said, and remember, I'll tell you this story, and I've told this before in other interviews, but I was working on a coil system, a pulsating coil system, and the Arcturians were helping me a little bit with some advice, and I was kind of, just there's something I need to get, it's not quite coming yet. I was getting a bit frustrated because I was trying to do this with my head. They're very jokey, these advanced beings. They're very playful. They're not serious and solemn at all. And they would smile and back away and said, okay, let's just let him have his little tantrum. Okay, right, now you're ready to listen. And so I was saying, okay, Reached this stuck point. Okay, what is happening? They said, now we want to tell you an important lesson. The reason why you have become stuck is because you are trying to perceive and work with perception your mind cannot do. You are getting stuck at a level. You reach the ceiling and you want to go beyond, but you're trying to do the beyond with your mind and you can't do it. They're saying you now have to learn, and they're saying you're going to learn that living in your heart intelligent perceptive state is an entire world different from living in your intellectual perceptive state. They're saying the mind has a beautiful use, but its overuse in human experience has led people to be very bottlenecked in what they can perceive, what they can see, what they can't see, what they can accept, what they can't accept. And they're saying that in order to get into the real fundamentals, the quantum organic fluidity of reality, said you're going to have to be able to perceive that through the heart center. And when you do, you're going to learn things and see things in ways you never thought were possible. That was a huge eye-opener for me. It really got me looking, oh, okay, I need a little bit of re-landscaping.
Yeah.
Quite an interesting experience.
It makes me think, what would we, how limited are we in just our five senses, in seeing from our eyes, hearing from our ears, tasting, it's so limited in what we actually could see all around us. Talk upon how much, how little we actually are perceiving of the known universe around us.
Yeah, I would love to. And one of the experiences I had with a certain group of beings, they were trying to help me better perceive the very nature of what we call the spatial fabric system itself. And they were saying it's made up of very intricate energetics that actually are, in one quality of them are memory. Mm-hmm. And so when we see, when we collect light and we see it, our eyes are essentially responding to the wavelength of the light and the intensity or the amplitude of the wave. But what you don't perceive with your eyes, your physical eyes, is all the subtle energetics that are hidden within that wave that are coming. So, for example, if I say to people, okay, consider the ocean, like the ocean's waving up and down. You throw a bunch of glowing balls on it and you switch the lights off. Oh, look, I can see a wave. I don't see anything else. I just see a wave, an amplitude, a frequency, and I can measure that with instrumentation. So that's all an instrumentation device like an EMF meter will do. It just measures the oscillation of electrical charge. It tells you the wavelength and the amplitude, whether it's digital or analog, and that's pretty much it. Now, that's essentially what our eyes currently do. But what you can't see when you turn the lights back on is all the living fabric and organisms and living life in the fabric that was making that wave to start with. Mm-hmm. And so, to me, one of the things they told me very early on is light itself is a living library. And when we get light, or what we consider to be photons, although I see them a little bit differently, is that these are living libraries that interact with you. So when the sun bounces off you, it imbues living active codes into you, or living intent packets, as I call them. And you also get to imbue that with your experiential imprint as it leaves you. So it comes in, basically offloads its books of library to you, and then you pass on, and then it gives.
Right.
And you can see this massive web of interaction going on all the time. As light bounces between one person to another, you are getting, even though the senses, like you mentioned, the 5 primary senses, aren't perceiving that, you are actually getting downloads, uploads of this experiential imprints that go on. And it's the same with the spatial structure of space as well, because space itself contains the active living memory, according to my teams, of events that have taken place there. And they're saying it's one of the reasons why when people go to war-torn zones, battle zones, that are long gone, like a World War II site, something like that, people go in there and they still feel something is terribly wrong. It's because the active imprints, the energetic memory, for want of a better phrase, is still active in the fabric of what we call space in that area. That can be cleansed and cleaned, but without anybody actively doing it, if it's strong enough, it just cycles there, and it takes a while for it to dampen down. And so that's my interpretation of what they were giving me. And so, yeah, there is And they were saying that when we get to a sufficient level of interconnection and that massive emanation, we will start to be aware of perceptiveness, where we will be able to sense the nature and energetic imprints of not just our local area, but they're saying even beyond. They're saying remote viewers, or I call it, my version is remote perception. Well, it's not my version, but a version that was shown to me, let's say it that way. Is that we will be able to perceive the energetics within this entire galaxy and beyond. They're saying the perceptive nature of the human form has such colossal potential, because as they've described it, humanity is made up of many master races that contributed particular energetic packets, but in the physical form of DNA as well, that coalesce together to give this power engine of perception that we're not even using a tiny, 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 tiny fraction of right now. And that's exactly as I see it, and with the information that they've given me, for sure.
What do you think the function of the sun is, as it's is it in the solar system? I think that we don't understand what the sun is really doing. It's a living being, right?
Yes.
The sun is living. Tell me your impression or what you've learned.
Yeah, my interpretation is that having had many bilocated trips to the sun, going through what we perceive as the outer shell, as somebody who studies stellar structure, is, in the mainstream point of view and what the internals of, the physics of stars are and so forth, it's not like that at all. It's very difficult to describe the perception of going through the surface layers. There's a huge, in what feels like an interior, and then something, what I can only describe, looks like, those plasma balls where you've got a little Tesla coil and you've got the ball at the top and it gives off streams. It was closer to, yes, and it was closer to that. And I remember my teams coming in one time and I said, how can I better understand more of the fluidic, living, energetic nature of, stuff I can mess with? They said, get yourself a plasma ball. And they said, if you study that, feel that, learn to perceive what's happening with those threads, as those electrical or plasmic threads that are coming off, you'll start to get a better flavor and a feel for how things, work in a more fundamental level. And I found that interesting as well. And I got that perception in passing through many of the boundaries of the internal aspects of the sun. And there's something at the core. And to me, go ahead.
No, there's definitely something in the core of the sun. When I've explored it in my own meditations, I think that's related to the plasma ball nature. I feel like sometimes those can be like gateways to the middle. Like people can ride them like a tunnel. And there is something, the middle is not hot. The middle is an actual space that you can go into, right?
Yes.
Maybe I'd love to know more about what you know about the middle of the sun.
I agree. Yeah, my perception of what we've come to know as temperature of the sun is not the same as it is when you actually perceive it properly. Right. And as in the experiences that I've had, and some of the teams have brought through in meditative experiences, is that the sun itself is a living, almost like a nexus, that every solar system has this grand interconnectivity, almost a conduit, that makes this huge light fibrous network throughout the galaxy. And it all connects to the galactic core. Galactic cores connect together. It's like a root system of a tree. It might start at one point, but it branches out, and there's this whole two-way interactivity of intelligent information or energy through what we call suns or stars, or these focal points of solar systems. So it's this magical dance of living energetics, is the most poetic way that I can say it. And it's a huge exchange, and that's, to me, is part and parcel of what is happening now in this ascension process. Because they said very clearly, the sun is undergoing a profound transformation right now as it's jumping forward. It's not just humanity. The core of the earth has similar conditions. The whole interior, as I've seen it and been having interactions with deeply position in Earth groups as well, and they've shown me the core of the Earth. It's not too dissimilar from what's at the center of the sun.
Right.
So that again, another huge subject in of
No,
itself.
hey,
But
yeah.
it's-
So, do you think each of the cores of the planets in the solar system are living universes very similar to a sun, and they're all interconnected through those cores into the sun forming a network that branches out into the other solar systems?
yeah.
And so I'm visualizing it like you said, it's an interbranch network, and that's how I've seen it, exactly the way you just described it.
Yes. No,
Right.
it's great to hear your feedback and your experience on
Yeah.
that, because I mean, most of my stuff, it's my experience. I don't talk
Yeah.
to too many people
I've
about it.
had the experience that if in meditation
Mm,
that I can go into the sun, into the center of the sun, I
yeah.
can seem to download additional information from other solar
Yes.
systems, other galaxies.
Yes.
It
Yeah.
seems to be a conduit, a place for me to go in consciousness.
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
it's almost like a library, like another
Yes.
place that you can go into that connects you to something much larger than just the solar system and the knowledge the sun has, because we're all constantly in an information field, which is basically the general knowledge of the sun, who created all of the planets and stars, and sort of even the archetypes of who we are built into the sun's information structure that's coming through, right?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I'm glad you brought that up too, because coming back to the living library, active part of light itself, the sun, in going through this process, is gently warming up and literally emanating very profound intent codes, as I call them, and other people probably call them different things, but these are living, energetic impressions of lifting us up higher and higher and elevating our consciousness. And so I love being out in the sun, and you can feel, when you get used to it and you feel the codes coming in, you can feel the exchange that's taking place. There's so much, and I feel that, as a scientist that's come from a very rigid form of thinking and having to break those chains and moving into a more fluid, organic, living, intelligent universe rather than a mechanical one, making that jump opened up a whole bunch of vistas, including this, excuse me, which is to say that it's this giant exchange system, that each solar system is almost like a sphere of development within itself.
Right.
And that each sun has a unique, emanation that it does in order
Exactly.
to, yes, to support with, intelligent energetics for the life forms in those solar systems. And each of these is like a little creche that all throughout the galaxy and then other galaxies beyond is
Right.
in a nutshell is the way that I see it. Yeah, absolutely, definitely.
So each is sort of playing out a different game, and they're starting with a base level of infinite knowledge, but then expanding upon it, creating their own planets with races and different developments. I mean, the level of thinking on a solar level fascinates me.
Yeah, me too. It's colossal, and the the teams that I've been connecting with have said many times. They said the interest of races we don't even know the names of that has been garnered by what we're going through here is colossal. It is such an important thing because the rate at which we're doing it and the breadth of what we were doing, because of the expansivity that we're going through and the massive updates and up levelings that we're going through, not just as a human species, but as a planet, excuse me, as a solar system as well, and at the core of it, the sun. So it's big. It's really big.
Right. So that's why do I continue to also get that information from multiple avenues, that there's something special, I mean, about the Earth. We want to think that we're special, right? That's part of our predilection. But there is something unique about the sort of game that we're playing here. It's a framework
Yes.
that's gathered
Yes.
multiple different races.
Yeah.
What have you been able to perceive from our past
Yeah.
that we may not know in general, in general history, that has led us to here? Is there things in our past that are unknown that you maybe have uncovered in your explorations?
Yes, that's an interesting point, because a lot of our past, as I understand it, has been tinkered with and meddled with in many ways, because there's been a great deal of repairing that needed doing to, certain interests, shall we say, trying to go back and change and alter preconditions, and what have you. But What my teams have been very clear about is that we are on a very high level trajectory. And the only thing that might wobble it a little bit is our own personal choices to drop down in energy and consciousness. Like if we have a bad day or some event happens that knocks us for a little bit, we might wobble, but eventually we'll settle back on the trajectory, the high trajectory we're on. Mm-hmm. Now, they did say that people have free choice. So you can continue on that trajectory and ride the wave, so to speak, or you can resist and kick and fight, which, a small group of people are doing, But they were saying that the level of work and active conscious self-development individually in groups that people have been doing all around the world, not just this lifetime, but many lifetimes, and you mentioned historically, the seeds have been planted. And the way I see it, it's like, imagine a bed of soil. It's quite dark, it's quite lifeless, and then some advanced being comes to place, like almost like a time capsule, like a light capsule that goes into the soil, and it's going to slowly spread light fibers all the way through this darkened environment, and it's going to wake it up really slowly. And that's how I see in the past this has happened, and that's why, it's an inevitability that what we call light or a living intelligence source or the creative energetic, whatever you want to call it, it's all heading towards that, and nothing can change it, because those beings that try to mess around things only have access to a certain portion or a certain bandwidth of reality itself. They have no access to what's around it or beneath it. The high-level beings who work on behalf of source intelligence do. So they really have a handle on what's fundamental here. So truly, really, that's how it's all being, very gently manicured or helped towards that, towards that end point. But now it's got to a point where the end point, there are no other possibilities other than heading towards this amazing and profound end point, which is this elative opening up of the heart intelligent fields within the human system, and suddenly becoming a being with perceptivity, ability, and creative emanations that are beyond anything we can currently imagine. And that's what they've described. And they haven't given a time frame. I don't have any dates or when that's going to happen, but that's very clearly what they've been saying we're heading towards.
Why does it feel like when we look out into the world with our minimal understanding that we're going backwards? It doesn't feel like we're moving forward. So
yes. Yeah, that's another cool question. So the way they've described it to me in my own life, I've experienced this, is they're saying, here's what happens. If you imagine yourself as a pure, fully conscious vessel like an advanced being, you have conscious access to everything. It's full of intelligent light. Your whole perception is extremely expanded and advanced. Now you go down to a human system where we both now, because of the massive amount of suppression, survival, trauma, all the junk we've had to go through lifetime after lifetime historically, we have what we call now subconscious and unconscious. And to them, they describe the unconscious as everything, it's the dumping ground for everything we didn't want to own. So what's happening is, and that reflects itself because the unconscious and subconscious aspects are still emitting, so we're still morphing and crafting our reality in alignment with that total sum signature we're giving off, all layers overlaid together, not just the conscious stuff, it's the sub and the unconscious as well. And they were saying what's happening is we are going through a massive purging and upliftment of all of the crap, so to speak,
right.
Excuse my language, from within the unconscious that is uprooting to make way and dissolve away so that that whole aspect of you can now become fully conscious again. So we're going from a partial awakened conscious state with a lot of unconscious and a lot of baggage. That's all dissolving and coming into what we call what I'd call the conscious perception realm. As it comes out, it plays out. You see it lashing out in the real world. It's all the mirroring effect. So all of the conflict we're seeing right now, all of the dross, the rubbish that's going on right now, and it's not just us. You have to remember, our experience in the earth realm has imprinted a significant amount of traumatic, energetic imprints into the body of the earth, the fabric of the earth, the soil, the atmosphere, all sorts of places. that's coming out too. So that also has a correlation to earthquakes, shaking ups, volcanoes, massive outpourings. And they said this is unfortunately just part of the parcel of the huge house cleaning that we're going through. And as the crap gets thrown out of your house, you will see it leave, and you will see it play out as it leaves. And so they were saying that is why you see all this happening. And they're saying, they keep saying a lot that be of good cheer, because the fact that that is happening is the fact that it is leaving. And so if it wasn't happening, they'd say they'd be a bit more, not concerned, because that's a very human phrase. They would be seeing it as, oh, okay, there's quite a bit more stretch to go before, the stuff comes forward. So I take it, even though it's really, really awful to see a lot of the things that are going on right now, in a evolutionary way, it's actually a positive sign that the rubbish is being turfed out, and it is being turfed out permanently. It's not something that's just, oh God, we're not going through this again. No, this is the last time for this, and we're totally on our way out of it. The very fabric of how the energetics have been changed in space, the flow of time, these looping time fractals that I talked about before, in a very loose nutshell way, it's all been altered and reorientated towards massive uplift and evolution. We are leaving the old operating system to dissolve away, and that's what's happening, in my view.
Yeah, we don't have to repeat the pattern. Although it appears what we're experiencing is a pattern, it feels like the end of the pattern. There's an aspect of to it. Very much like if you want to purge something within you, it helps you to bring that emotion up. And you might shed some tears. You might go through, when you feel it, in order for you to remove it, it needs to come back up. And so it's same. That is what we're seeing on a larger scale. That makes sense to me. That helps me to look at it and say, okay, there's still hope.
Yeah, and actually, just
Right.
very quickly, I'm glad you mentioned more about the sort of looping, because that, so many people that I've talked to have often talked, why do I keep experiencing this or that person, that event? They're so annoying, they don't go away, kind of something like that.
Yeah.
And I was saying to him that literally has been the image that my team showed me is, imagine a human being that's now enclosed in this self-looping cage. Now, you'll loop around, and the orientation of the looping might change. It might look different colors, different events, different people, but you are still looping around. You're not actually on a free evolving trajectory where there is no reiteration, no looping again. And they're saying that metaphoric cage, so to speak, is breaking open. And so people are actually experiencing a little bit of a contrast and emphasis of some of the loops they're going through as it's breaking down and opening up and leaving, so that we are getting on a free-flowing, pure creative trajectory where nothing repeats. Everything is brand new, and in every moment of your perceptivity. So that's another exciting thing that I feel is on its way. And a lot of people are starting to see that. Old systems that used to be looping, they don't get them anymore. They've gone. So to me, we're definitely heading in the right direction.
Yeah. Does it feel like karma is done? There is no more karma. The old concept of karma, we're done with that. It feels like we've energetically, on a larger scale, let that go. We played the game of clearing our karma for thousands of years, but I feel like that's part of our transition, is the releasing of those karmic requirements that we had to deal with before, right?
Yes, yeah, I would say that from what my experience has been and what my teams have spoken about, is that one of the things that held humanity historically on this downward slope was these repeating patterns of imprints of trauma, misuse from one person to another, you to another person, and what we call karma, or this imprinting of something that you did or somebody else did that you're now locked and engaged in a loop together. And yes, that has just really just gone down and down and down and down, over time. And thanks to this massive seeding of living intelligent light, now all those constraints, those bonds, those binds are dissolving and breaking away. Suddenly people are able to be more forgiving, more letting go. It's like, you know what, it's fine. Water under the bridge, let's just move forward. The ability to do that is really opening up for people much more than ever used to. So I agree, the system that we have been in, which allowed such a state of dense binding in that way, or karma, or whatever you want to call it, is absolutely breaking down and leaving, definitely.
Right. And so the question is, what steps can I take? Can the people that are in the group right now, to help people in this process? Many people that are called to my group, and I'm sure yours, feel that they're part of this process. They're not just watching it on TV, that they have a role to play. They feel like they
Yes.
have a role as therapists, as gurus, as healers, as light workers. How can we find the right way to make a difference in this process? What can we do?
Yeah, well, I can describe what I went through, and what my teams encouraged me to do, is that when I had these experiences of connecting with my higher self, I wanted to know so much about ETs, races, and everything. And my higher self said, "What I'd like you to do is to focus on your core relationship with your living heart intelligent fields, the very core that is starting to open. Really develop that, build that, relax into that." And one of the methods that they taught me is rhythmic breathing. Now, rhythmic breathing is a rate of breathing and a depth of breathing that brings you the most relaxed. There's a sweet spot in there. So it's not too deep, it's not too shallow, it's not too fast, not too slow. There's a sweet spot for you, which is unique to your entire makeup, and it will change as you change. They said, when you reach that sweet spot and you'll feel it, that is the most receptive point that you have in your inflow of breath, where you can influx, if you like, or sponge in the immersion of your high self living intelligent energetics. It's a little bit like a sponge soaking up liquid light. So every time you take an in-breath, it infuses. And then your cellular structure, your body starts to form this living, active relationship with your higher self. And your body starts to align and synergize with your higher self. The more you practice that, your perceptibility, as it did with me, with just hearing your higher self actively whenever you wish to, is right there, right then. It gets stronger and stronger. Latent abilities that you have never even imagined will come on. And they said, hand in hand with this is the puzzle pieces, what they call puzzle pieces, that we're here to solve. And so before we incarnated, we have a particular adeption of working through certain energetics because of our, soul experience, our experience on other worlds, those kind of things. So we all decide, I'm pretty good at doing that sort of stuff. So I'm going to, there's a family. Yeah, that's perfect energetics. I'm going to get in there. I'm going to, be born into that family. I'm going to pick up all that dross from all that they have, from the family fields, the energetics, the lineage, the historical stuff. And I'm going to grow up and get to work. It might be really tough, but this is the package that I'm going to work on to dissolve and break away, because every package of these puzzle pieces we solve individually correlates to all the solutions going into the Earth living grid systems and being made available for everybody else automatically. And I believe that's partly why there is this knock-on exponential effect where, as people do their puzzle pieces and make it available for everybody else, suddenly everyone jumps up. And then it goes in faster, even faster, even faster. So there's this real exponential, expansion going on. So I would say, in a simple way, that would be my recommendation to focus on, is really focus on that amazing relationship with your core self, really expand it. And, one of the things that you can do is you can ask your higher self, your core self, your source intelligent self, many people have different names for it, is while you're sleeping, where I believe the most work gets done with you, is to literally encase you in a field or a cocoon of living light that helps you align and synergize with your core truth. And this is one thing that a lot of people forget to do. You can offer up the dross, any puzzle pieces you're getting stuck on, to your higher self. And the greater you have a relationship, with your higher self, the easier your higher self can come in and take those off you and sort them out intelligently. So yeah, little tidbits like that I found are extremely helpful. They're very elegant, very simple, but you can put them to practice at any moment in your life that you want to. And I do on a regular basis, and I've cleared enormous amounts very quickly Because once you have that relationship with your higher self, it's like the most powerful ally you have. It's your best friend. It knows you inside, outside, upside, you name it, and knows exactly what you need to do at any given time. And so as you build that relationship, you get to understand if you get stuck. Okay, what do I need to do? Just really getting stuck with this. What's happening? You'll get the intuition. This is what's happening. That is what you need to look at. You just let go. I'm going to just allow me to get in there, and I'll, intelligently organize, start dissolving things. Because the other thing is, you've got to remember that your higher self does respect your personality free will, your human free will. And so if you don't actively invite it in, there is a limit on what it can do. And so again, having that relationship with yourself about inviting the high dimensional aspects of you to come in and help you is a big jump forward as well, in my view.
Do you have a protocol that you could recommend to people for them to connect to the higher self?
I would say, in my view, in meditation, just simply closing your, even for 5-10 minutes, doesn't have to be long, doing the rhythmic breath, because the breath systems, the energetic systems, not just the physical breathing, it's the energy influx and outflow that takes place with your breathing, is an incredibly powerful infusion thing to do, let's call it that, that really gives you the ability to infuse into your cells, infuse into all the layers that make up you as a human being with your higher self. And even just a few breaths of that, I would say that in my experience, most people feel a profound shift into stillness and peace and this intelligent connection with their higher self. So I would say to anyone, go play with it, try it out, see what works for you, and make it your own. I'm a big believer in people making things very personal, because everyone is different, and not giving too much protocol and structure so that it feels like it's fun. Because another thing I want to add here is that the teams have made it very clear that they're big jokers, they're always playing around. They're not serious at all. People have this idea that these aloft beings walk around, and it's not like that at all. Yeah. They're always having fun. And they were saying the more fun and lighthearted you can be with this, the better, because that gives you the open receptivity to your core self, that if you're serious, you're now locking down and closing and you're shutting off. Because the synergy doesn't work, because your high self is very playful, very lighthearted. And if you get serious, you're actually taking on a different energy that's now slightly incompatible with that. So the access will be diminished.
Absolutely, 100% amazing. What an incredible conversation. I'm sure there's 100 different topics that I'm going to think of when we're done that I could ask you about. So many different aspects of what's going on. And is there anything else, that just cool information that we haven't covered that you'd like to share with us? Anything else that goes along with what we've been talking about?
Yeah, I can feel my higher self now. It's like I said, I have a very close relationship with my higher self, and I'd just be walking down the street and we'll be having conversations and chats and things like that. And it's internal. It's not like
happens for me.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So and I think that's lovely, because you're actually just immersing yourself back into the real you. You might sort of talk intellectually to the you, but it's you. It's the core you. But one of the things that is coming, my higher self is saying that there are big transitions coming, and they're very positive, although they are going to appear like they're going to shake the established perception of reality that people have. And they're saying that, or my higher self is saying, the message of encouragement is to say that the more lighthearted you can be, knowing that this is being held and handled by very high levels. This is nothing is happening by accident. Very, very high level groups of beings, vast in consciousness, vast intelligences are handling this. And so we're not just haphazardly bumbling through, falling down a mountain thinking, oh God, when I get to the bottom, everything will be okay. Right. It's not like that. They're saying it, but they're saying the resistance we present when we go, we have a reaction. That is when trouble can start a little bit in our personal lives, because now we're gripping, we're holding, we're not letting the energies flow properly. And that's when, the ascension symptoms can kick in like really, really strongly. And my higher self is saying just the real message is with these powerful waves that are coming from the solar center, from outside our solar system, from our cores and from the core of the planet are really elating. They're really jumping up. And so they're saying that there is going to be these waves of pushing out all this old stuff. And they're saying just as much as you can, try to be as funny about it, try and joke about it, just try and be lighthearted as possible, because that allows it to leave faster. So yeah, that would be a cool message to finish off on.
So if people want to connect with you, they can go to infinitesourcecreations.com. Do you offer one-on-one sessions, coaching, anything like that?
No, unfortunately, because I juggle living energetic field research with doing the information the teams bring through. So I don't have the time to do one-on-one sessions, but I do a platform on Patreon on Infinite Source Creations. So if you go to Patreon and type in Infinite Source Creations, we've got a lot of stuff on there you can go for free. Well, all the global ones are free. The Q&As are all free. We do ask a small subscription just to, for the personal activations to help us keep that going. And it also helps us do the research we do as well. But in particular, the two free ones, which are 14 and 15, which is the initial activation of the opening of the infinity point, which is the direct connection, the gateway to your source intelligence within the Sacred Heart itself. Those two are very powerful, and you can just hop on, type in number 15 in the search, and or meditations in 2024, and you'll find those two come up. So those are freely available to anyone. So try those if you want to, and have fun.
Well, thank you, David. And I can't wait to talk to you again once I write out a whole other list of amazing questions that we can go over and talk about. Do you have a favorite science fiction novel or movie? Novel or movie?
Yeah, that's interesting. I can name a few. I'm a bit of a science fiction nerd.
I kind of suspect it.
Yeah, like my t-shirt.
Right, yeah.
So I would say, yeah, there's some really cool science fiction out there. I mean, some of the older stuff I find is a little better. There's one in particular that was kind of interesting I saw a while ago. It's a film called Sphere.
By Michael Crichton?
Yes, the book and the film,
yeah, classic.
Yes,
I love it.
Yeah, it was a cool one. And the other one I think is probably one of my old favorites. Is The Abyss. Is one of my favorites. The Abyss,
all-time classic. Absolutely,
yes,
100%.
exactly. Really cool. I love that film.
All right. Well, thank you for the recommendations. All right, and welcome to the Reality Revolution, Dave.
Thank you for having me. It's been awesome fun meeting you, talking with you, and I hope, whoever's listening to this has got a load out of this as much as they wanted to, so that's cool.
Thank you. Welcome to the Reality Revolution. I am so excited to cordially invite you to an amazing event we're hosting in Austin on September 18th through the 20th. We're going to take you into the large sums of money portal, into the vortex where you live in the reality where large sums of money come to you. Almost 10 million of you have listened to one meditation on my channel. And my comment section is filled every single day with people telling me the same impossible story. Money showed up, unexpected checks, refunds out of nowhere, raises, clients, windfalls. And the amazing thing is, it's not just a little bit, it's large sums of money, just as those words denote. From one affirmation, this September 18th through the 20th in Austin at the Hyatt Regency, we're going to do it together in one room for the very first time. Years ago, I found the affirmation that I changed my entire financial life with. I have read it thousands of times. Millions of you have fallen asleep to it. People call it the master code. And here it is. You know it well. You can probably say it with me. I am so happy and grateful now that large sums of money come to me easily and quickly in increasing quantities from multiple sources on a continuous basis in the best interest of all, that I get to keep, give, spend, and invest joyfully. This has been the master code of my life, and so many of you. It has changed my life in so many ways. Every single word in that affirmation has come true in my life, and there's nothing I want more than for you to experience the same thing. Every word is deliberate, large sums coming to you easily and quickly from many sources continuously in the best interest of all. This is the affirmation people have written to me about from their cars after an unexpected deposit, from their kitchens the morning a check arrived, from lives that changed after they simply kept listening. It works. You had told me it works. Tens of millions of views later in a comment section that reads like a miracle log. Read the comments under that meditation right now. Real people, strangers to each other, saying the same thing in thousands of different ways. The money came, the exact amount they needed, the opportunity they had given up on, the doors that opened the week they started listening. And here's what stays with me the most. The people who come to my live events tell me the same thing every single time, that being in the room in 3 days does what years of listening alone was building toward. The meditation opens the door. The room walks you through it. For the first time ever, I'm taking the master code deep for 3 days into a room. For 3 days this September. An entire event built around shifting you into the large sums of money future that is available to you. 9 immersive sessions. We open by unleashing infinite streams of money. We walk through a range of money. We quantum jump into large sums of money together. You come face to face with the wealthiest self of you in the multiverse. And we live inside this affirmation for 3 days until it becomes deeply embedded in our DNA, until it is no longer something that you listen to. It is who you are. This is the most powerful way I've ever found to transform money in a person's life. And I've only ever been able to give you a piece of it through the screen. I'm going to give you all the most advanced teachings on money, ways I was able to make money. I want to show you that in this new economy, in this new age, that you have access to infinite streams of money, that it's available to you now. We're living in the best time ever to be prosperous and free. I'm also bringing things into the room that I've never done at any event. I'm keeping them a surprise. What I will tell you, this is the first time gathering around the Master Code in person for 3 days, and it will only be the first time once. You're going to want to say that you were there when it happened. You're going to want to be the one sharing your success story in the way that it changed your life, in the way large sums of money came to you.
Today was my first day with Brian Scott. It was just a wonderful experience.
So my favorite one that has always resonated with me is the manifesting abundance mindset. So like I am so happy and grateful that large sums of money come to me easily and quickly.
I've been a fan of Brian Scott's for years, and the opportunity to see this event live exceeded my expectations.
I'm so grateful to be here. I've been listening to Brian's stuff for 2 years. I'd say Brian really changed my life.
When we come together, everybody's affected by it. Even if you don't necessarily believe, the energy of it is so incredibly powerful and magnetic. The room is small on purpose. Every seat within arm's reach of me, and these seats are going quickly. We have a lower early bird price than any of my other events, specifically targeted so that if you're interested in going to one of my events, this is the perfect time to go. I'm so excited to go to Austin, one of my favorite places in the world. Austin is such a creative, unique, vibrant city. It is the perfect place for us to manifest large sums of money into our life. September 18th through the 20th. You can find the link in the description at www.brianscottlive.com/Austin-2026. I cannot wait to see you there.